This is Matthew Kratter's Bitcoin University. Today I want to answer the question, will we be able to save Bitcoin? As we've been talking about, Bitcoin Core 30 has been tagged and released. It's not available for everyone to download yet. I'm checking Bitcoin Core here and it's still at 29.1, but we can expect version 30 to ship and be available for download. There are already people running it. According to Luke Dasher's tracker here, Node Tracker, it looks like there are currently 249 Core 30 nodes, i.e. Bitcoin nodes running Bitcoin Core 30. And we can see here CoinDance is back up. Bitcoin knots is currently at 21.35% of the network. So then the decision is here, what do we do going forward? How do we deal with this complete disaster? There was a recent interview with Bitcoin Core devs, and this is their plan.
In stage one, we say nothing is going to happen.
Stage 2, we say something may be going to happen, but we should do nothing about it.
In stage 3, we say that maybe we should do something about it, but there's nothing we can do.
Stage 4, we say maybe there was something we could have done, but it's too late now.
So it looks like we're not going to be able to rely on Bitcoin Core devs to get us out of the mess that they've gotten us into. As Arthur Van Pelt points out here, Bitcoin Core version 30 is out, and here we go. Gives a little perspective to why Luke Dasher and Bitcoin Mechanics said that Bitcoin dies today. I wouldn't say Bitcoin dies today, but this is definitely bad stuff. Jason Castier posting, I have no reason to keep silent any longer now that we just effed every maxi over with the help of core, miners, and exchanges. The final boss is king of the spammers, and I can now safely begin onboarding the thousands of ETH and Sol shipcoin NFT army to spam the mempool daily. This may be trolling, you never know, but Alex B pointing out here, I fully intend to use all the additional opportune space and will use it to make Bitcoin more like Ethereum, except better. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I think he's trolling here, but this is not something that should be joked about, and it's obviously going to piss a lot of people off. This commenter asks here, does Bitcoin still have hope? This stuff is super technical for someone like me. I'm learning little by little to not outsource my own critical thinking. That's very important. Glad you're doing that. But what are the chances that we can get over this? Also, I'm going to run a knots node. My response, yes, I haven't sold any of my Bitcoin and we're going to fix this mess together. It's not the first crisis in Bitcoin's history, and we're all now seeing how difficult hodling can be. It's not just the bear markets, but it's the crises in the community. And it's these crises that eventually get solved and Bitcoin emerges on the other side much stronger. That's why I'm not selling, because I think there's still a lot of hope, and we have to make Bitcoin work for the sake of humanity. We have to win this fight. Lou Jackets asks here, is there a dead certain way of preventing your own node from updating to Core 30 without your knowledge? I assume this person is running Core 29 or 29.1. My response, fortunately, there are no auto updates for Bitcoin Core. I should have added there are no auto updates for Bitcoin knots as well. That would be an attack vector if there were. So nothing is going to upgrade, or as I should say, downgrade you to Core 30. Even if you're using Umbrel or Start 9, you have to manually enable this. So no auto updates. You don't have to worry about that. He responds, by running knots, I should be safe from unwanted downloads. My response, if you run knots, your node will not relay, in other words, will not send to other nodes any large op returns. That's a really good thing if those op returns contain some bad images, but if one of those large op returns makes its way into a block, your knots node will still need to download and verify that block and all the transactions inside of it. And if your node didn't do this, then you would be on a fork of the chain. You wouldn't be on the same chain, because historical transactions that are included in the ledger were all forced to stay in consensus and deal with these. So this is what Core 30, this is what the Bitcoin Core devs have thrust on us. Before Core 30, op returns greater than 83 bytes would not be automatically, that is by default, sent from node to node. Instead, they would be shot dead in their tracks and not sent any further by your node. That means that the only way pre-Core 30 that a large op return could get mined would be if they were submitted directly to a mining pool, for example, using Mara's Slipstream service or using Libra Relay, or maybe your friend runs a pool, a mining pool, and you send them the transaction to include in a block. Now, you could also try to mine the block and include the large op return transaction yourself, but you have a very low probability of mining a block compared to large mining pools like Mara or Foundry. This is the problem of Bitcoin mining pool centralization. For obvious reasons, there's no way that Mara or Foundry, these large American mining pools, are going to mine a large CSAM op op return that you submit directly to them due to legal, regulatory, and moral consequences. And of course, if you try to submit something like that to them, you can be sure that your IP address will be traced and the FBI will be alerted by Mara or Foundry, because obviously these types of images and material are extremely illegal, as they should be. So in a weird way here, current mining pool centralization, at least in the US, has actually been helping to stop consensus valid transactions, but non-standard transactions from getting mined. Now that's great when mining pools are filtering out CSAM op returns, but it could cause serious problems if they ever decide not to include certain monetary transactions in blocks. Then you would need to rely on a Chinese mining pool or some independent, smaller mining pool. If you're finding this video interesting so far, please help to support this channel. Hit the subscribe button. That does really help. Leave a like, leave a comment, question, suggestion for a future video, and share this video with a friend or family member. So Mara and Foundry are obviously watching these things, but unfortunately there is one large Chinese mining pool that is currently running Core 30, as I understand, and mining large op returns, as Luke posted a couple days ago. And I really wanted to hesitate before boosting this, but I think this is now unfortunately something we have to talk about, since Bitcoin Core has pulled the pin out of the grenade and we're moving forward with this. But Luke writes here, F2 pool is actively attacking the network right now. All it takes is one attacker to send them a single instance of CSAM, and Bitcoin users will have to knowingly and intentionally receive, store, and distribute it until the end of time. This is what Bitcoin Core has done to us. This will permanently impact Bitcoin adoption, regardless of whether governments turn a blind eye or prosecute. If miners are going to switch pools, in other words, if you're pointing your hash to F2 pool, you should definitely be switching pools. Now is the time to point to another pool. As Luke writes, I don't care if you switch to Foundry or even Ant Pool, which is the Chinese mining pool conglomerate. Luke writes, obviously I would prefer you make your own blocks and use Ocean, but this is too critical and time sensitive to be picky. We can work on mining decentralization and spam issues over a longer period of time, but CSAM is an instant kill we must avoid, and I agree with that. Now here's a warning for everyone. Do not browse F2 pool blocks or other blocks on the Bitcoin blockchain and examine their op returns going forward until we have this resolved. And we can be certain that the relevant authorities are already on top of this, since Bitcoin is following exactly in the footsteps of BSV. This already happened. This isn't some Streisand thing that Knots people are publicizing. This is a real risk to the network, and it wasn't the Knots people who got CSAM on BSV back in 2019. This is a known attack vector. This is probably the source of why this may be a nation state attack or a state level attack on Bitcoin by somehow compromising Bitcoin Core over the previous months and years. So we can be sure that relevant authorities are already on top of this, since Bitcoin is basically doing the exact same thing that BSV did. And when BSV did that, they received lots of op return CSAM when they were foolish enough to blow open the op return from 80 bytes to 100,000 bytes, just like Bitcoin Core has done with this release. We can be sure that the relevant authorities are already on top of this and will alert the world if large op return CSAM gets mined. So definitely don't go looking for this stuff. That is illegal, and it's highly unethical and immoral as well. It's not safe for people like you and me to be browsing the blockchain at this point. And for that, thanks a lot, Bitcoin Core. Really appreciate it. Trenton1190 asks, if one person runs Core 30 and CP or CSAM gets uploaded, does it mean that it's forever on the blockchain from that point forward, or does it have to reach some sort of consensus? My response, it means that it's on the blockchain forever unless there's a block reorg, which we'll talk about, or a hard fork, I believe, to take it out. We'll explain more what this means in a future video. Here's the tip of the current Bitcoin blockchain. This block was mined just 4 minutes ago. And so if there's one of these nasty large op returns in a block that's at the tip of the blockchain, we can ask miners, and their lawyers will certainly encourage them to mine on a different block, not to mine on this block, but perhaps to mine on this block. And so we could get a block reorganization where this block disappears. That's one way of dealing with it. But we have to talk about ledger immutability in this context. One of the both very good and very bad things about Bitcoin is that it is virtually impossible to rewrite the blockchain past a certain point, about 1 hour blocks or about 6 blocks. That's a great thing, because if you were able to remine a block that contained monetary transactions, in which I received Bitcoin a month or so ago, or even a week ago, if you were able to remine that block and exclude my transaction, then Bitcoin would no longer be in my wallet, that Bitcoin that was in that transaction. And this would actually be censorship of a transaction, censorship of a monetary transaction. It would be as if I never received it, because that transaction would not be in any block. So Bitcoin's ledger immutability is a really good thing. It's very difficult to rewrite the chain, but Bitcoin's ledger immutability is now also a problem because Bitcoin Core 30 has officially rolled out the red carpet for non-monetary data on Bitcoin through large op returns. And this is a supported place for non-monetary data. It's not some hack like inscriptions or grinding keys or something like this, where people embed stuff very deep in a cryptographically really deep way in the blockchain. This is a space provided by Bitcoin and by Bitcoin Core for non-monetary data, and it's just there all in a row, contiguous. So this is the problem with op return in particular. Bitcoin Core 30 has now officially rolled out the red carpet for this. Hopefully they still pull this back since it hasn't really officially been released. But basically it looks like it's happened. Large op returns are now officially supported and blessed by Bitcoin Core. So you can reasonably expect large op returns, some containing CSAM, to start to get relayed around the network and included in blocks. Again, exactly what happened when BSV did the same thing to their op return in 2019. But if a large CSAM op return gets mined by some small unregulated mining pool, there may still be hope. At that point, it will be imperative for large American miners like Foundry and Mara, hopefully the Chinese miners as well, not to mine on top of that offending block. You can be sure that their lawyers understand this at this point. If mining pools take quick action to reorg out any large op return CSAM blocks, then we will be okay. But once this stuff gets mined and buried under 3, 4, 5, 6 blocks, call it, it would require some sort of fork, I believe, to remove it. I thought Pierre Rochard had a very interesting thing on this podcast, The Bitcoin Way, with Michael Jordan. So let's listen to this, where he talks about one version of the scenario.
Yeah, I would say that's where I sometimes part ways with the Knots camp. Is I've grown to believe that this is not like an existential threat. And in talking with some people who are not necessarily pro-core, but I mean, very frustrated with the Knots side, you know, like the whole CSAM debate, like, is this going to be, are we going to be, you know, just blasted with illegal content, you know, images on the blockchain? Are people really going to risk 20 years in prison or whatever on a public ledger? Like, is that going to grow to be such a problem that it's really an attack vector for regulators or government? It only takes one, I suppose, you know, it takes one turd in the pool kind of thing to, you know, to dirty it. But I can appreciate that it's overblown. And I saw Mechanic, who I generally like. Yeah, go on.
Let's say it's not overblown. Let's say that V30 comes out, the worst happens. You know, there's a press conference with Attorney General Pam Bondi, and she says, you know, we're going to prosecute any Bitcoin node operators that are, you know, relaying this information, whether it's in a block or in a transaction. And the Bitcoin price tanks, you know, to like $1,000 or $100 or whatever it is. I think that would actually cause there to be 99.9% consensus that we need an immediate soft fork that stops all op returns and literally removes the data, the offending data in a historical block, and says, you know, a valid Bitcoin node should not download that op return. And, you know, it's just hard coded in there, and everybody apologizes to Luke. And
I think what he's talking about here, I don't think it's just a soft fork. It may be some combination, but once you start talking about hard coding something in a block, I believe that requires a hard fork. Anyway, there's a huge mess here, the huge can of worms that's been opened up by Bitcoin Core 30. I'm still hopeful that they, for some reason, don't release Core 30. They finally understand the danger here. But at this point, we're just going to watch and monitor the situation. The only thing you can really do to help at this point is run a Bitcoin Knots node. That will definitely help to stop this stuff from being relayed, and will decrease the chances that it finds its way to a miner, it gets mined. And if that were to happen, then that's when really bad things start to happen, and something like Pierre's scenario may have to play out. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the subscribe and like buttons. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video, and let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.